Hey guys, it's Bookfangeek, and I wanted to try a little something different today. I have been having a very hard time finding songs for my speed paints, I'm not gonna lie, so I figured it would be a lot easier to just do some voiceover and find some nice background music instead. You're more than welcome to mute this video and go find some background music yourself, I don't mind. But, yeah, I'd love to take a minute to talk about my art with you anyways, so this should be a fun arrangement. So this is actually an idea I had for a little bit now. I've always wanted to have a drawing that I could redo every year. Just to see how my art's improved. However, I had no idea what I should draw until recently when I realized, oh yeah, I have this webcomic that has been going on for 4 years now, so even if I stop liking it, I'll still have a really strong connection to the characters and I'll still want to draw them. So I did a little image of all the main characters together. Admittedly, some of the faces are a little bit wonky because this sketching style you see now is not what I normally do. I thought it would be easier to make the poses if I sketched out exactly how the limbs looked, and it turns out that was not a good decision. It made drawing the clothing a little bit harder, and it made the faces way too small for the heads. Yeah, I don't know if I will be returning to that art style, at least for the heads. Maybe for the bodies. We'll see. This was definitely a fun experiment to see how my art style has improved. Over this past year, I have been slowly starting to inject details into my art, such as the seams in clothing, as well as getting better at drawing clothing folds. I used to not draw any, and boy, was that a mistake. I've also started to add highlights in the hair, which is a nice little touch, I think, because it makes the hair look a bit more 3D, which was an issue that cell shading gives you. At least cell shading in the way I do, where I just shade between the clumps of hair, which is probably not how you're supposed to do it. And so now I figured I'd talk a little bit about each individual character, since you guys might not know everyone here. So we'll start with the obvious, the one in the middle, with the purple sweatshirt. If you don't know him already, I'd be shocked. Well, at least if you're subscribed to me, you should have seen him quite a bit. His name is Caleb, and he is the main character of Power Pills, also known as Soul Seer. He has the ability to read and control minds. He's a little ball of anxiety and self-loathing, and I love him to pieces. He's definitely the character I have the strongest connection to, as I gave him my own way of thinking in terms of social anxiety, things like not telling Travis about his abilities because he's scared of getting yelled at by Travis. That is very much something that I would do. He is the main character, which means I go into his brain a bit, which means that he starts acting more and more like me as the series goes on, which probably isn't good because he also becomes more and more problematic as the series goes on. Then to his left in the leather jacket is Dan. Dan is a lovable goofball. He's very happy all the time, but it does kind of hide the fact that his own past is not all that great. His father left his family when he was 2, and his relationship with his mother has been strained ever since. He's definitely an amalgamation of every theater kid I have ever met. Right down to his being extremely smart, but being a huge procrastinator, which is why he never got a job outside of theater. He refused to put in the effort to find one because he knew that theater was what he wanted to do. Fortunately, becoming a superhero helped him dig himself out of the hole. His mom did actually kick him out, which was fine because he was getting paid enough to afford rent, which is the main reason why he never moved out in the first place. Not being able to pay his friends for rent, despite the fact that they allowed him to live with them for free. Moving to Caleb's right now is Tom. He is the definition of a hipster nerd. I give him beanies and scarves and off-the-shoulder sweaters, and he is absolutely adorable. He was isolated from human interaction ever since he was 7. He didn't really go to a public school, he was homeschooled, and there's a lot of stuff going on in his past that I probably shouldn't mention because of spoilers. He's an absolute dork who has no social skills, and I love him to pieces. I mean, he's very cool when he wants to be, when he is in superhero form. You would not be able to tell that it's actually Tom, but yep, that's our dork. So then we're gonna jump over to Dan's left, the girl with the skirt. Admittedly, I'm not watching the Speedpaint as I'm recording this, so I don't know how far along this is right now. Just warning, I am going to slow down quite a bit at the coloring. I always worry about giving people seizures when I do the coloring portion because I just use the paint bucket tool and I zoom in and out instead of scrolling around the page. So yeah, just letting you know, when it comes to coloring, that portion is actually slowed down a bit. But jumping back to what I wanted to say, I'm not using a script either. That girl on Dan's left with the skirt is Mary. She is adorable. She's probably the most innocent character in the entire cast. I know I made fun of Caleb for not wanting to swear in comic, but Mary legitimately doesn't. She is a devout Catholic, which means she will refuse to even say things like, oh my god. She's a huge sweetheart. She is so quick to fall in love. Fun fact, her relationship, I don't know if you could see it at all who it is, the Otterpop meme, it's Travis. She also has a fling with a supervillain. Not gonna say anything about that one further, but fun fact, that relationship between her and Travis happened because of Tomodachi Life. I can't remember who it was that wanted to get together with the other, but I was sitting there playing it and I was like, wow, they'd actually be a really good couple. And even though they aren't showing it in this picture because, Travis isn't here, I actually do enjoy their relationship the most out of every relationship in Power Pills. I can't believe I just spent all of Mary's section talking about her relationships. I'm sorry, guys. I know she's more than that. She's very much of a snarky prankster. She's actually Irish. She moved from Ireland when she was 14 years old, so she would have been a freshman in high school. And that is pointed on. I do believe she does her best American accent when she's in her superhero costume, but that hasn't been pointed out in comic. I might add a portion of that later on, so keep an eye out for that. You'll know that I literally just wrote it. She also has the ability to fly, so I thought it would be cute to have her hovering a little bit above the ground to, get a better look at the action going on in the center of the image. She just wants to see all of her friends. And the girl leaning on her leg is Christy. She is the artist of the group, and I do believe if I ever redo this image, she is going to be one of the 2 people whose outfits will probably change. I kind of realized literally during the summer, oh yeah, she is an art student. You might be able to see it, but she has eyelashes coming off of her eye, which means she does do makeup, which, yeah, that's generally how I signify that characters do makeup, as if they have eyelashes. That means that, she's an art student, which means that she would probably be pretty fashion forward, so this t-shirt and jorts ensemble is probably not the best option for her. Not to mention it doesn't exactly bring any of the color of her pill with her, which is something that's actually very important for color motifs in the cast. The only other characters who don't necessarily do that are Matt, who is kind of supposed to, Phyllis, who was originally supposed to, but her outfit might change as well, and that's actually it. You might think Caleb doesn't have any yellow on him, but his pants are. I actually don't like the color yellow, which is why his main color is purple. Admittedly, I do think Christy is the blandest of the entire cast. She doesn't have all that much going on with her. She's just a girl. But she's also very nice and friendly. She instantly befriends Dan when he shows up at her friend's art show. Not to mention, she's incredibly supportive. She actually suffered from chronic insomnia before she took the pill, and, her pill. And it actually helped her balance out her insomnia, and for once in her life, she was actually full of energy, and she could do whatever she wanted. Tate, the girl who's jumping, is definitely the more wild card of the group. She's very energetic. She loves superheroes and cosplay, and yes, you're probably gonna guess it. She and Jason hang out quite a bit. But Tate is a lot of fun. Fun fact about her, she has a little tuft of hair that you can't see because she's facing the wrong way. However, that tuft of hair covers a cochlear implant. Tate is actually completely deaf. That is the reason why Lightbringer's suit does not cover his mouth. They figured it would be really important for someone who is deaf to be able to still read lips should her cochlear implant ever fall off or run out of batteries. My dad is actually deaf, and I took a lot of her mannerisms from my dad directly. My dad isn't fully deaf. He can hear a little bit without his cochlear implant, though he could hear a lot better before he got it. But certain things like snapping to make sure it's on, and referring to it as her ear instead of her cochlear, things like that. And then moving on to her right, we have Sybil. Sybil is definitely a fun character. He's a goof-off, but he always has a little bit of seriousness to him. He is a female-to-male transgender man who is currently living in an apartment on his own because his parents were not very accepting of him. He lost pretty much everything when he came out, and it's been kind of a rough for him. Fortunately, becoming a part of the Power Pills showed him some new friends. He was able to turn his life back around, but he was kind of not in a good place at first. Sybil by far has the coolest power of the bunch, the ability to shoot lightning out of his hands and also hack electronics. He and Caleb can actually combine powers in order to send Caleb's mind reading through electronics. Well, mind control. I haven't actually addressed reading minds when using Sybil's powers. Maybe I should try it. And the one giving Sybil a hug is his boyfriend, Matt. Matt is a football player. He is a college football player specifically. I believe he's a freshman when the series starts. You guys are going to hate me for the Mibble ship when it first shows up. Matt is an absolute douchebag when he first shows up in the series. He shows signs of being homophobic, and he is almost psychotic in the way that he acts. He was the one member of the Power Pills not chosen for their personality, but rather chosen for his athletic ability, and it shows in what he does pretty much as soon as he gets his powers. But through time, Sybil managed to calm him down using shock therapy. Yeah, that's what he called it. But they were training him, or they trained together on how to be a better person, and in the end, Matt ended up taking Sybil's lessons to heart, and he slowly began to realize that he might not actually be as straight as he once thought. Yeah, Matt is the only member of the Power Pills, I think, no, he's not the only member with a canon sexuality, but he is pansexual. He's one of the few who does. The others being Caleb, who is asexual, Tom is also asexual, and Dan is the token straight, though that might change soon. It's just, stuff happened. I rewrote book 4 and there was some shipping fuel in it, and I was like, oh, okay, I could work with this. And the ninth and final member of this team is Phyllis. Phyllis was originally just supposed to be a pretty stereotypical white girl, which is why she's got her Ugg boots and her blonde hair, blue eyes. However, in the end, she ended up being way more than that. She's actually studying to be a lawyer, which means that she's very haughty, and on top of everything, she will get very angry at any signs of someone not obeying the law. Overall, she just doesn't fully approve of the power pills because she knows it's vigilantism, and she really only joined the team after a ton of convincing. She gets along with everyone. She's a little bit cold. She really gets along best with Mary, and they have a lot of time together where they just hang out and go shopping because they are kind of similar. I didn't realize it at first when I made this team, but I did end up pairing up the power pills with their own like personal best friends, which would be Phyllis and Mary, Caleb and Dan, Sybil and Matt, obviously, and then Kate and Christy. Not Kate and Christy. That's later. Tate and Christy. This image was not a redraw, however, I do have an old image of the power pills that I drew for a request one day. And I noticed that even though I did not use it as reference, there were quite a few similarities, such as someone just attacking Caleb's shoulders, Matt being the one to scoop Sybil into a hug, surprisingly, and Phyllis, just not wanting to be a part of the group and looking very grumpy. But yeah, overall, I do like how this image turned out. I do think there were some issues with the faces. I did go back after I stopped recording and fix things, like I didn't shade Caleb's shoe. Dan's shoulder, looked disconnected from his arm. And certain body parts were not shaded, such as Mary's arm and Tate's fist and things like that. So I went back and fixed that, but overall, I really enjoyed working on this, and I cannot wait until 2020 when I can redraw this image for the second time. See you in whatever my next video is.